In the early 1970s, Al Green had the voice, the hits, the women, the fame, and the money coming in fast. He was not just another singer. He was one of the smoothest voices alive. A man who could turn heartbreak into a hit record, romance into a business, and pain into platinum-level soul. But behind the velvet voice, something darker was building. Because one night in Memphis, while Al Green was at the height of his powers, his life changed inside his own home. A relationship turned violent, a tragedy unfolded. And after that night, Al Green would never look at fame the same way again. This is not the story of a man who simply lost money. This is the story of a man who almost lost himself. Because making millions is one thing, surviving what comes with them is a whole different game. Welcome to People Who Fumbled Millions. And today, we're looking at the strange, painful, and complicated story of Al Green, a man who had the world in his hands, until fame, temptation, trauma, and a life-changing tragedy forced him to choose between superstardom and salvation. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe and comment below. Was Al Green's decision to walk away from mainstream fame a fumble? Or was it the thing that saved him? Chapter 1. The Gospel Kid Who Wanted More. Before Al Green became the voice of love, he was Albert Green from Forest City, Arkansas. He came from church music, from gospel harmonies, from family singing, from a world where music was not just entertainment, it was spirit, discipline, and survival. But even early on, there was tension inside him. One side of Al Green belonged to the church. The other side was being pulled toward the world. He heard voices like Jackie Wilson, Sam Cooke, and James Brown. Voices that were sacred and secular at the same time. Voices that could make people shout in church or scream in a nightclub. And Al wanted that. He wanted the stage. He wanted the lights. He wanted something bigger than the life he came from. But that desire came with conflict. Because in a strict gospel world, secular music was not always seen as harmless. It could be viewed as temptation, as rebellion, as a door opening into a life that could take you away from God. And for Al Green, that door opened early. He started chasing popular music. He started recording. He started performing. And like a lot of young artists, he had talent before he had direction. He had ambition before he had control. He had the voice before he had the foundation. And that matters. Because sometimes the gift arrives before the person is ready to carry it. Chapter 2. Willie Mitchell found the sound. Al Green's career did not explode overnight. At first, he was another hungry singer trying to break through. He had a record called Back Up Train that brought him some attention. But attention is not the same as power. Attention does not mean you are rich. Attention does not mean the industry believes in you. Attention does not mean you have control. Then Al Green crossed paths with Willie Mitchell, and that changed everything. Willie Mitchell was not just a producer. He was a sculptor. He heard something in Al Green that Al had not fully mastered yet. At the time, Al could sing hard. He could push. He could imitate the bigger, louder soul voices of the era. But Willie Mitchell understood something deeper. Al Green's power was not in screaming. It was in restraint. It was in the whisper. It was in the pause. It was in the way he could sound like he was confessing a secret directly into your ear. So Mitchell slowed him down. He softened the edges. He put him inside the high record sound. Warm organs, deep bass, tight drums, horns that floated instead of attacked. And suddenly, Al Green stopped sounding like a man trying to be somebody else. He sounded like Al Green. That was the beginning of the machine. The record started moving. The audience started growing. And Al Green became one of the rare artists who could make love sound holy and dangerous at the same time. Chapter 3. The money started moving. By the early 1970s, Al Green was not just hot, he was on fire. Tired of being alone. Let's stay together. I'm still in love with you. Call me. Love and happiness. Here I am. One after another, the records connected. And when records connect like that, the money follows. Shows, royalties, radio, record sales, women, cars, hotel rooms, attention everywhere. Al Green became the soundtrack to romance. Couples played his music in bedrooms. Radio stations played him all day. Fans looked at him like he knew something about love that nobody else understood. But that image is dangerous, because when the world turns you into a symbol, people stop seeing the full human being behind it. Al Green was sold as smooth, romantic, untouchable, a man who had love figured out. But nobody has love figured out, not really. And the more famous he became, the more his private life got complicated. The money was coming in fast, but the foundation underneath it was already cracking, because fame does not remove pressure. It multiplies it. It gives you access. It gives you options. It puts people around you who want something from you. And when your image is built on love, desire, and seduction, the line between the stage and real life can start to disappear. Chapter 4: The Superstar and the Warning Signs. By 1974, Al Green was near the top of soul music. He had the voice. He had the records. He had the look. He had the lifestyle. But success can make a person feel protected from consequences. That is one of the oldest traps in fame. You start believing the applause means you are safe. You start believing the money means you are in control. You start believing the public image is the real you. And slowly, your private world can become more dangerous than your public one. For Al Green, that danger was not a failed business deal. It was not a bad contract. It was not a gambling addiction or a mansion he could not afford. His fumble was more personal, more spiritual, more human. He was living inside the pressure of being a romantic icon while his private life carried real emotional weight. And one of the people in that private world was Mary Woodson. Their relationship has been described in different ways over the years, but what is clear is this. By October 1974, the situation had become tragic. And the tragedy did not happen in a studio. It did not happen on a stage. It happened inside his own home. That is what makes this story so haunting. The place where a superstar should have felt safest became the place where everything broke open. Chapter 5: The Night Everything Changed. October 18th, 1974, Memphis, Tennessee. Al Green was at home. At the time, he was one of the biggest soul singers in America. His records were still moving. His name still meant something. His voice still sounded like money. But that night, none of that could protect him. Mary Woodson entered the bathroom while Al Green was bathing and threw scalding hot grits onto him. The burns were severe. The pain was immediate. And then the night got worse. Mary Woodson went into another room and died by suicide. Just like that, the fantasy shattered. This was not a rumor. This was not industry gossip. This was a violent, traumatic event that forced Al Green to confront the reality of the life he was living. Because when something that dark happens around you, it does not just injure your body. It attacks your identity. It makes you ask questions you were avoiding. How did my life get here? Who have I become? What am I chasing? What is this fame actually costing me? And for Al Green, the answer was not simple. He was already moving toward religion before the attack, but after that night, the pull became stronger. He began to see the tragedy as a warning, a sign, a line in the sand between the life he had built and the life he believed he was supposed to live. The world saw a soul singer survive a nightmare, but Al Green saw something deeper. He saw a reckoning. Chapter 6: The Bag He Almost Fumbled. This is where Al Green's story becomes different from most fumbled million stories. He did not blow all his money in casinos. He did not lose everything to drugs. He did not destroy his career through one public scandal and disappear broke. His fumble was quieter than that. He had the machine in his hands. He had the crossover appeal. He had the catalog. He had the stage. He had the kind of voice that could have kept him at the center of popular music for years. But the life around that success became too heavy. The fame was not just paying him, it was consuming him. And sometimes the fumble is not losing the money. Sometimes the fumble is almost letting the money pull you into a life you cannot survive. Al Green had to look at the business of being Al Green and ask whether the checks were worth the chaos. Because the public wanted the romantic superstar, the industry wanted more records, the fans wanted the voice, but Al Green wanted peace. And peace is expensive when your image is making everybody else money. Chapter 7. From Soul Star to Reverend Green. After the tragedy, Al Green moved deeper into faith. In the mid-1970s, he became a minister and established his own church in Memphis. And by the end of that decade, he had largely turned away from the mainstream pop and soul machine to focus on ministry and gospel music. To the outside world, that looked like walking away from the bag. Imagine being one of the hottest voices in music, right at the moment when your name still carries serious weight, and then choosing a church pulpit over the pop charts. Most people would never understand that. Managers would call it bad business. Labels would call it wasted momentum. Fans might call it confusing. But Al Green was not just making a career move. He was trying to save his soul. And that is the heart of this story. Because the world teaches people to chase more. More hits, more money, more fame, more women, more applause, more everything. But Al Green had already seen what more could invite into his life. He had seen the private cost. He had felt the damage physically and spiritually. So he chose a different road, not an easier road, a different one. Chapter 8, The Comeback was different. Al Green did not vanish forever. Over time, he returned to performing some of his classic music. He recorded gospel. He won Grammys. He reached new audiences. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He received major lifetime honors. And later, projects like Lay It Down introduced his voice to listeners who were not even alive during his original run. But the comeback was never the same as the first rise. It could not be. The young Al Green of the early 1970s was chasing the world. The older Al Green was negotiating with it. There is a difference. He could still sing the love songs. He could still move a crowd. He could still remind people why his voice mattered. But now, there was a shadow behind the music. A memory. A warning. A reminder that the most beautiful careers can have terrifying chapters behind the curtain. And in a strange way, that made the music even deeper. Because now when Al Green sang about love, pain, forgiveness, and surrender, it did not feel like performance. It felt lived in. Chapter 9. The Lesson. So what is the lesson in Al Green's story? It is not that fame is evil. It is not that money is bad. It is not that every successful artist has to walk away from the world. The lesson is that success without inner control can become dangerous. Al Green had millions of people listening to him, but inside his own life, there were storms the audience could not see. He had money coming in, but money could not protect him from trauma. He had status, but status could not give him peace. He had fame, but fame could not make his private life safe. And that is the part people forget. Everybody wants the hit record. Everybody wants the mansion. Everybody wants the screaming crowd. Everybody wants to be loved by strangers. But being loved by strangers does not mean you are whole. It does not mean you are disciplined. It does not mean your relationships are healthy. It does not mean your spirit is strong enough to carry the pressure. Al Green's story is a cautionary tale because he reached a level most artists dream about and still had to face the fact that fame had brought him to the edge of something dark, and the only way forward was to change. Not just his sound, his life. Chapter 10. Did he fumble it or escape it? In the Fumbled Millions world, we usually talk about people who made fortunes and lost them. But Al Green's story asks a harder question. What if the real fumble would have been staying? What if chasing more hits after that night would have destroyed him? What if the bag he walked away from was the same bag that could have buried him? From the outside, stepping away from mainstream fame can look like losing. but from the inside, it may have been survival. Al Green gave up a version of himself that made a lot of money. But he kept his life. He kept his voice. He kept his legacy. And decades later, people still know the songs. They still know the name. They still hear that voice and stop what they are doing. That is not a normal downfall. That is a man who almost fumbled everything and then made a choice that most people would not have had the strength to make. Al Green's story was never just about music. It was about a man who had the voice, the fame, the money, and the world watching him, but still came face to face with the one thing success could not protect him from: himself. After that night in Memphis, Al Green had a choice: keep chasing the spotlight, or walk away before the spotlight swallowed him whole. And maybe that is the real lesson. Some people fumble millions by losing the money. Al Green almost fumbled something bigger: his peace, his purpose, his soul. This was fumbled millions. They made millions. Then they fumbled it. But in Al Green's case, maybe walking away from the bag was the only reason the bag did not bury him.